So when it comes to side projects, I think the number one benefit of side projects is that it increases your coding velocity because I mean side projects are just a way for you to write code outside of work without it feeling work. So it's like kind of a life hack, right? You're essentially building up this muscle of writing code, which is still very important to you as an earlier in career engineer. And the more hours you put into something, generally the better and more efficient you get at it. So that to me is the number one benefit of side projects. And number two, this one is a bit fuzzier, but I think it's very good for both you and me because we are both product engineers. We work with pixels on screen. So you're working more on the website, I work more on the Android side. The product understanding that you get from the overall development cycle of building a side project is going to make you a much more holistic engineer overall, and it will make you more valuable to your organization. So when you're a software engineer at a lot of companies, the default state is, especially if you're earlier in career, is you just write code. And that's kind of the main value you offer to the org. But in the end, you don't write, no company just writes code for the sake of writing code, right? They're trying to deliver a product to the user. And once you start doing side projects, if you're doing them properly, like you're actually building a side project that you want to grow into a real product that people use, as opposed to some sort of tech demo that you don't even publish, then you start picking up all these skills that just make you a better product owner in general. And I have many concrete examples here. Number one, with the side project, you're probably not going to have a full team, right? You won't have a PM or a designer or a data scientist feeding you all these other inputs, right? You're going to have to design the UI yourself. You're going to have to manage the product yourself. You're going to have to respond to user reviews and feedback and look at the data to figure out where the product is breaking and what users are using, right? You're essentially going to be like a super engineer because like you will be able to hybridize between, you'll pick up like some PM skills, some designer skills, some data scientist skills, even some CX, customer experience skills, right? Because you'll see the feedback that users are leaving on on whatever side project you've built. And you can take those to the bank when it comes to your job, because now if the team is talking about the product overall, you can actually provide input on designs. You can provide input on product requirements and direction because you now have built some of these skills yourself doing a side project. And the thing about side projects, especially if you work on something as consumer facing as JPMorgan, is that you can kind of morph them to be as close to your work as possible, right? And there's two dimensions here. Number one, you have the stack of your project match the stack of what you're doing at work. So if you're a web engineer at JPM, just build like some nice websites, build some nice web apps, right? So this will directly benefit your coding velocity. Across all the companies I worked at as an Android engineer, coding velocity was actually never an issue for me on my performance review. And I think this was largely due to side projects. I just wrote so much Android code outside of work that just physically I was a much faster Android coder than almost every other engineer on my team, especially those at my level. So when it came to growth, I just had to focus on the non-engineering parts like project management and tech leadership. So make sure the stack of your side project and the stack of whatever you work on at work are the same, and then try to match the product spaces as well. So I remember back when I was at Coursera, which is an education technology company, something I built for fun was a flashcards app. And building that flashcards app was actually really helpful in like understanding how to design a good UI for flashcards and how to structure the code and maintain a data model, stuff like that. And eventually we just had to integrate flashcards into the Coursera app. So I just took a lot of my side project code, copy pasted it, and then I was able to ship that feature much faster than expected. Right, so with JPM, it's you can maybe work on some fintech thing. I guess it's a bit trickier because like it's going to be much harder to write a side project that actually transacts money. But maybe you can build, I don't know, maybe like some free budgeting app or something. Just something to think about. And yeah, I think side projects have a tremendous benefit, provided that you of course, you have the time outside of work in order to work on them. And again, it's like kind of a life hack. So there's kind of two ways to get more output, and I think the first way is the more traditional way, but I think it's not that good. The first traditional way is like, if I want to get faster at coding at work, if I want to like, get more stuff done per sprint, I'll just code longer. So instead of working 8-hour days, I'll work 12-hour days. But I think that doesn't really work because the extra 4 hours you work, it's, your brain's going to be like, well, this is work. This sucks. I don't want to work this long. So your productivity is just going to go down dramatically when you do that. You're going to get burned out. And the second way is like, you still kind of code 12 hours a day, but you have your work code and then you have your side project code. And side projects are just so much fun when they get traction because, like, again, you kind of, it's your baby. You kind of own the entire thing yourself, and you get to see all these things you normally don't get to do at work, like responding to customer reviews and stuff. You get to build skills that are very directly applicable to your work, but it doesn't feel like work. So you're allowed to do that without burning out.